Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast, brought to you by our show partner, Join Cycling for Stage 3 of the Critérium du Dauphiné from Broe to Charentonnet. 207 k's of rolling hills in the, well, it was warm conditions. I wouldn't say sweltering, but it starts hot. We've got basically 15 k's straight of climbing with a short descent, including a 6k 7% climb. Whether the break formation there'd be big action there, an intermediate sprint, another short, and just rolling hills all day. The main action was the coat of the yellow Chateau Hill, Côte du Chateau Jaune, 1200 meters, 9.5%. That crest 19 k's from the finish, short plateau on top, short descent, and then a 900 meter 5% hill, 9 k's from the finish before a false flat, nasty drag all the way to the line. It's a pretty hard stage. It's a harder stage than it looks on paper because it's long, it's hilly, there's a lot of accumulated climbing, it's warm, and these riders aren't, unless they've been in Sierra Nevada, maybe particularly used to the warm conditions. Anything pre-stage, Benji?
Not particularly. I think when it comes to this stage, yesterday evening, we assessed, okay, if it's really passive, maybe the peloton does something as in Sprint Jonathan Milan, but we came to the conclusion that 90% of this peloton will want to go in the breakaway because realistically they don't have a chance against Milan. And for once they actually did it, which, let's be honest about it, we talk about that specific scenario a lot on this podcast where, if you don't have like the peak sprinter here, hedge your bets, go in breakaway, maybe also have a chance from the peloton. In this case, just a lot of teams were interested in the breakaway. And we saw that from even Mathieu van der Poel going in the breakaway here. A group of 13 is what forms up ahead, but something happens before this breakaway is fully formed. Because after the first climbs that you mentioned on the profile, there's an intermediate sprint. And that intermediate sprint, the full gain, the full budget of gold gets taken by Louis Barret, I'm pretty sure. That takes 3 seconds and the points on top. But there's a sprint between GC riders that we don't see because there's no broadcast yet. Pogacar takes 2 seconds, Remco takes 1 second at his intermediate sprint. And that's when the breakaway forms just after that. We see a group of 13, and when you look at that breakaway, pretty strong breakaway, no?
Yeah, it's got a top GC rider in it, Florian Lipovitz. He's podiumed, multiple World Tour GC races, and not just a Tour of Poland. We're talking
Paris-Nice.
Top 10 in the Vuelta in Paris-Nice this year. On similar lumpy terrain to this, actually. He was good in stage 8. And then, Van der Poel is obviously very strong. I felt bad for Bardet missing it. This is the right break composition. I think Bardet attacked just before this, got caught, and maybe he had a mech or just got countered. Decathlon miss it. Armorel had been active. Tranchant they'd want to have in. He's fast. They miss it. So it's the right break that can go to the line. You've gone through the full list now, Benji, or not?
I have not, my friend. I have not.
Dos from 2 from Ineos, Laurence and Leonard, Julien Bernard from Trek, which, I mean, it's funny, Trek are the ones with the best sprinter in the race, and they put in Bernard as a hedge. So they're like, you can put a rider in the break, and if your sprinter gets dropped, you can then play the card in front. Tejado's always good in France in these stages. Ivan Romeo's a truck from the young U23 World Champion from Movistar. Leknusson, Van der Poel, Bruyck, Roland, he's quite good. I don't think he's any relation to Pierre Roland.
I don't think so either, but am I dumb in thinking that Bruyck, Roland won like LBL U23 or podiumed it at some point? Oh, U23 Lombardia, that's the one. He won last year. And
Courdelapé, U23 GC with the stage. He's been good in La Polynormande, which is a hilly professional race. He's a good rider, and this is his first year as a professional. So it's actually not an easy break to make. It's like some guys are getting dropped in break formation. Chris Nylans, that's a name I haven't heard for a long time. Was it the 2023 Tour de France, Benji, where he was absolutely flying and just didn't get... He was the first guy to get caught by a Group 2 that didn't do Group 2 syndrome that entire season, and I think it might have been Tuissoir, Benji, when Bilbao won.
Yes.
He was solo, and there was a group of 5 behind, and somehow they literally chopped off perfectly together and caught Neylands.
Was that the Tour de Suisse, where Chris Neylands was also very relevant, where maybe Stephen Williams or Van Wilder won a stage? Am I inventing that?
Yeah, I think Stevie Williams won a stage at Stade or something in front of some good competition. So Yeah, he looks in good shape. Israel, I mean, G was in good shape in the Giro. Dunbar, Jaco, Louis Barret, who's been the revelation for Intermarché in the Ardennes Classics, and Anthony Turgis, who won the gravel stage in the Tour de France last year. It's a very strong break. It's got a lot of guys. They're going to pull. Lipovitz is a little bit of a problem because, all due respect to Ivan Romeo, but they're not worried about him in the mountains whatsoever. Maybe he can backdoor a 7th in GC or 6th with the TT, but Lipovitz is a real GC rider, and so you can't let it go to 5 minutes. You have to control it. Can we talk broadcast coverage, Benji? Because actually, after the break forms, there's not much to talk about.
Sure.
I understand not broadcasting a full Dauphiné stage. It's not worth the money. That's not what anyone expects. Today, you could have had Paul Orsolin riding on his own for 6 hours. I don't want to see that. You don't want to see that. No one wants to watch that. No one wants to pay for that. It's not entertaining. So I'm not saying the midweek Dauphiné stages should be broadcast in full, but I mean, I watched the whole of Antwerp Port Epic yesterday. I watched a stream of Paris Trois, a 1.2 race with some French classic sprinters. Yesterday, a full stream of it. Surely it's possible. And I mean, the reason I'm saying this is because I feel like ASO has dropped the ball on this. The last time, this statistic has been said a million times at all outlets. The last time Remco, Pog, and Jonas competed in a 1 week was in Tirreno 2022. It's been 3 years, and you have them at your race, your premier 1 week race. To not cover maybe at least the majority of the high mountain stages on the weekend, to me, it's just a shame. I feel like it's like a piece of history, like an old painting being destroyed or something, if it's not covered at least or recorded.
The one thing I do want to add on top of that, it's not just because the 3 big GC riders are here. On top of that, for me, is Dauphiné, mountain stages, end of the race, Paris stage 8. These stages have year-on-year provided regardless of those stars being here in the first place. And we've complained about it not being fully broadcasted for years, not even with the big guns at the start in the first place. Because stuff happens. On Saturday, right? It's Saturday, right? Stage 7. On that stage, you've got the Côte de la Madeleine at the start, the Croix de Fer after that, and at the end, you've got the Valmenier climb. I have looked at the time slots, and based on the time slots, I'm presuming that we won't see the first climb for sure, the second climb, most of it, which that's such an impact on the stage because we'll miss break formation, we'll see what teams do, we'll see what UAE and Visma do, whether one of them wants to try anything early, probably not, but it's a preparation to lead up towards the Valmenier climb. I'm sorry, but it's such a missing factor. And then we look at the logistics behind the scenes, because for people that don't know, the way cycling races are broadcasted, very cheaply, there's potentially the option in certain races to use 4G, 5G on a motorbike to transmit it that way, the footage. But in the proper World Tour races like the Tour de France, the Dauphiné, it ends up happening with plane relays, so planes in the air that relay the signal, etc., from the motorbike. Sometimes with helicopters as well, but I haven't seen that used that recently, I'm pretty sure. But that's the very costly option. In the Dauphiné, they're obviously using the costly option, and it's also partially because you can't always trust 4G, 5G in mountainous areas. Even in an LBL, for example, you'd probably miss 90% of the race if you did it on 4G, 5G. Now, Starlink has changed the game. I don't know how applicable it is to this situation, but it definitely feels like there's something possible here.
I mean, the VP of product engineering at Starlink is responding in the thread today. I posted on Twitter, within 5 minutes. There's got to be a solution here. And at the very basic, now Luke's the expert on this, and he says Dunkirk was done with Starlink and it was bad. So maybe that's not the solution. I'm not even saying full broadcast because that is too costly, but you have to record it locally. And at least, it has to be as it exists of what happened, recorded. It can't just be lost forever. The camera guys, they're paid by the day. They're there anyway. They're already there. I get it. The plane costs by the hour or whatever with the fuel, But the guys on the camera bike, they're not doing a different race that morning, I don't think. So have one guy in front of the peloton at least recording it. Put it on your YouTube channel, or I don't know.
But I also don't necessarily agree with okay, it might not be worth it to broadcast it. The position that the ASO is in as an organizer, and let's be honest, their races are very, very important in the sport of cycling, Tour de France, etc. When they negotiate with the likes of a Eurosport, with any broadcaster that wants exclusive rights for their races, you can't tell me that ASO doesn't have the leverage to slip in, let's do the full broadcast of the last two stages of the Dauphiné in this deal as well. You can't tell me that they don't have the leverage for that small addition to the list.
It's on the weekend. I think it's because, well, yeah, but Eurosport, they might not want to pay extra for it. But we're talking an extra. We're talking an extra hour. We're talking literally an extra hour and a half on one or two stages, and it's every year. Every year, final stage Paris-Nice, final two stages of Dauphiné are cracking stages, and it kicks off, and you're watching it on PCS Live Stats.
And in the size of the deal that an ASO is doing with Eurosport, I don't believe that will make the difference, personally. I don't believe that they're going to negotiate over the 2 hours of the Dauphiné. That's too much. That's too much. Like, if ASO wants it, and I think that
would
deal
you
would
like
go
to
through.
broadcast on Saturday afternoon Pogačar, Vingegaard, and Remco pre-Tour de France in their first mountain pass against each other? It sounds pretty appetizing to me compared to the hours of shit that is broadcast half the time of break of one rider doing nothing in a sprint stage. So anyway, I had to get it off my chest, Benji. It just upsets me that they barely ever race each other in the 1 week, and then when they do, most of it's not broadcast. It's like, what are we doing? Before we get to the actual rest of the stage, a word on our show partner, Join Cycling. If you want to reach your goals with cycling's smartest training app, you can get a 1 month free trial of Join Cycling with no strings attached through our link down below. And if you've been if you've already done the 1 month free trial, Join will send you an email and you'll get an annual plan on a discount. Join builds personalized plans around your goals, fitness levels, and schedules. We've got over 500 LRCP members in the LRCP group on Join Cycling, which is a crazy amount. That group is flying. It's done I think you from Join told me today that group already has done 50,000 training Ks on Join since it started a month ago in the Giro. So
half of those are Patrick's?
Half of them are Chris Naelen's, obviously. Me. Who else is flying out of nowhere? They've just done they've actually got into shape. Julian Bernard, he was also flying today. So they've obviously maybe they've been undercover doing the Joint Cycling Training Plan, or they're in the LRCP group. And it takes 2 minutes to set up. You'll instantly have a training plan that fits your life, not the other way around. Crazy value compared to the competitors. It's just incredible value, less than €10 a month. So hit the link down below, start your free month, get moving, and get in shape for summer like I am, even though I'm sweating. I'm doing heat training right now during the podcast. Thanks to Join Cycling, our show partner, for their support throughout the entire year. All right, we settle into a bit of status quo then, Benji. 3GC teams control.
Exactly, and we do see Jonathan Milan dropping a couple times throughout the stage. It's starting to look like he won't be competitive even if he makes it in the peloton to the finish line. And we'll see if that happens or not, because the Côte du Château Jaune is the pinnacle climb in the last 30 kilometers of this stage. It's actually 1.2 kilometers at, I think, 8-9% from the top of my head. So pretty serious bump in the road, I would say. But the breakaway is still ahead. That strong breakaway is still ahead, and the gap has flirted with 2 minutes in the run-up towards that climb and goes down to 145, 135. And at the foot of the climb, the Côte du Château Jaune, the gap is 1 minute. And I'm like, okay, 1 minute? If the peloton explodes, that's gone. But it's very competent riders in this breakaway. A Mathieu van der Poel, Romeo, Lipovic, which is a GC rider for this race. Leonard, when the climb hits, Leonard won't be useful anymore to be the tug buddy for this group. He's gone when that climb starts. And we see that with a couple of other riders in this group as well. But we also see the positioning fight in the peloton. And that combination of the breakaway arriving with a minute at the foot plus the peloton storming for positioning towards the climb, brings it down to 45 seconds once the peloton hits that climb. But I want to ask you a question here. If we take a look at the peloton in the run-in towards that Château Jaune climb, I see Joey in a great position with Pogacar at the front. I see Remco on the right side of the road with Soudal Quickstep. I see few Visma bike riders. When I say few, I mean a little amount. And I don't see the dude with the Danish helmet. Vingegaard's not at the front. What happened?
Vingegaard and Tollett were nowhere. Jorgensen looked like he switched himself off because he's the only Classics rider in the group to the UAE train at some point. But yeah, Visma got the drag race all wrong. And Pavel Sivakov dominates this drag race. He's got the left side of the road and he enters this corner first wheel. And this is not a climb you can move up easily on. I mean, it's narrow. If you're entering P, you got to be first almost 7-10 wheels if attacks start going. If you're P20 and attacks go, to respond to them, even if you want to, even if you have the legs, you're going to have to work your way around riders go in the gravel or the grass or whatever. So, yeah, Sivakov did a fantastic job with Wellens. Strandhagenes looked like he finished early in that. But yeah, it was all about that drag race. But it was in the balance, Benji.
Yep.
I thought Pog was going to go. He's got Narvaez there. He's got Sivakov there. There's no Vingegaard, just Jorgensen. Remco's there. And Remco's good. Remco being there is good for Pog. Because you got now 19 Ks of rolling terrain after this. Who do you want with you? You want Remco.
I think there's certainly an opportunity there. Because Remco and Pogacar will ride with each other if they get away. Vingegaard is in Narnia in the group. He's sitting in P20 on the left side of the peloton, blocked in. He can't move up right now. So he'll have to take some time to get to the front if you do attack at that moment. The problem is there's a lot of Visma bike riders there. So you're riding against a solid team of Visma bike riders. Jorgensen will probably offer him up last minute if needed to bring Vingegaard back. So there's some risk to it. But I would have loved to see it Ciclismo style. I wouldn't have hated it. It was an opportunity. I don't hate that they didn't go for it. I think it's also reasonable that they didn't. But at the front of the race, that's where it actually starts kicking off. Because that's where we see, initially in the front group, Lipovic coming to the front and setting tempo on this climb. But then we see Julien Bernard really hitting it, firing it up. And we've seen a few riders drop already, Anthony Turgy, Michael Leonard. And Bernard actually looked like Pete Alaphilippe for a second there. My dude was storming up that climb. But some riders were following. Tejada, Lipovic, and Leknesund. That four riders, Bernard, Lipovic, Tejada, and Leknesund, go over the top of the climb as a group with a 15-second, 12-second gap on Group Mathieu van der Poel. Who was in there?
With Van der Poel?
Yeah.
Romeo?
Laurence? Yeah. Romeo, Laurence, Dunbar, Brieuc, Roland, and Barret, I think.
And then, I feel like Roland was with Laurence. They were the third group, and they came back. There was like three groups, and they came back sequentially. Romeo looked strong. Van der Poel, yeah, everyone's been looking at him. I guess he was maybe pulling more. He had to shoulder more of the responsibility. Same with Lipovic in the breakaway, because Van der Poel's also maybe thinking of keeping the yellow jersey, and also they're all looking at him. But yeah, Julien Bernard cooked him. I mean, is that surprising to you?
Ooh, I don't know.
To me, it is 1,200 meter, 10% climb. I would not expect Bernard to drop Van der Poel.
Not me neither. I would not expect that either. And
Lipovic, yes, after a hard day.
But then again, it's not the Tour de France yet. It's the Dauphiné. We got to keep that in mind. It's like the Tirreno before the Milano-Sanremo. It's not as influential yet. But I would agree that I would expect Bernard to not drop Mathieu van der Poel on a climb like this. Maybe he thought, okay, if I can get over the top with a group, then we can come back anyway. But I don't think Van der Poel would drop on purpose on this climb either. But like you say, there's a gap. We get over the top. And Van der Poel and Louis Barret actually drop the rest of that second group and make a bridging move towards the front of the race in the descent. They get a gap on the others, the gap on Romeo and so forth. But eventually, Mathieu van der Poel gets to that front group. Barret gets to that front group. And the rest of that second group, including now the likes of Laurence and so forth, all come back to the front as well. So to set the stakes, Bernard, Lipovic, Tejada, Leknesund, Van der Poel, Laurence, Romeo, Dunbar, Brieuc, Roland, and Barret are now the front group of the race, and the gap towards the peloton has expanded. It's a minute 15.
Yeah, they're chilling.
It's all for the breakaway. What happens next, my friend?
Chaos, just they're all attacking each other. This was one of the best This is one of the highest quality 1 week break battles I think I've seen in a long time in terms of the names, the strength of the riders, the dynamics. It was a good battle. It reminded me a little bit of not Castelfidardo, but yeah, those vibes in Tirreno. And Romeo looked strong. Lipovic, I don't know what his plan was, to be honest. Was his plan for GC or the stage? Because he rode for neither. What Lipovic did, every time someone attacked, Lipovic closed them down and then stopped. Which, to me, if you're playing for the stage, you got to gamble a little bit, which is what Romeo didn't close anybody anytime. You got to gamble. Playing for GC, you just, once you've closed the guy down, you keep riding at your max tempo, basically, to keep the gap to the peloton. Closing a guy down and stopping and then sitting at the front, I mean, you're just asking to get attacked from behind it, and that cycle just repeated itself.
I kind of expected Lipovic to just go to the front and rile it into the finish line as much as possible and just skip on the stage and try and get as much time as possible for DC. That's what I expected, because I agree. He's very unlikely to win the stage. But GC-wise, this can potentially become a podium at the end if he gets enough time on today's stage. Because he's a competent climber. He's podium 1 week races, we said it already. But are we maybe underrating, because we didn't see it on TV, the fight that this breakaway had to have gone through initially, with Lipovic in it, with Uwe and Remco and Sefov slightly unhappy about his presence in that breakaway? Are we underrating how hard this race as a whole was?
No, I think it was a very, very hard stage. When you see Niels Pollitt, Domen Novak, Casper Pedersen, and Walter rotating as a group of 4 full gas and then dropping with like an hour left, clearly and they're keeping the gap at 1:30. Clearly a very hard stage. And the breakaways having to work, and probably they're leaning on Lipovic. Like Julien Bernard's not pulling the whole time because he's got the Milan card. So Lipovic has to pull. And I think probably, he gave it a crack on the climb, but then I think after the Yellow Chateau climb, he should have just ridden for GC. But anyway, he's in good shape, Lipovic. He's in really, really good shape. Yeah. MVDP was... we actually rarely see him in this position. Normally, he's punching away to kind of win solo or win the sprint from the peloton. But MVDP getting sort of Wout van Aert of the breakaway stage last year in the Tour de France. He was getting worked, and it makes sense. Who wants to go to line with MVDP? Nobody. Well,
lots of riders in the classics, apparently.
That was the funniest tweet, from the Flamme Rouge. It's like, apparently, people getting a group with MVDP in the classics are, I'll be able to follow him on the Quarmont. It's like, okay, buddy. Okay.
And here, in this race, like, you could argue that, why is everybody riding with this breaker of Mathieu van der Poel towards that Côte de Château Jaune? The reality is the pressure from behind is in this situation.
Have to.
That's why we didn't see a Fuga de la Fuga, an attack from this breakaway before that climb even came. They had to wait after that climb to then start playing, because then they knew the breakaway actually had the very likelihood of winning. Before that climb, the pressure was too high. So that's the difference here. That's why they were pacing before the climb. That's why they weren't necessarily working with the likes of Mathieu van der Poel after the climb. And they were playing with Mathieu van der Poel and with Lipovic. And at what point does that become your own cost? Because I feel like there were a few riders that did it a bit too much, and that might have cost them in the end.
Yeah, like Laurence tried a couple of times, but Louis Barret never tried. Dunbar never tried. And I think Dunbar was trying... Probably legs. He came back in the third group. And also, he was probably going to go later. He won one of the Vuelta stages, was it last year? Dunbar won it with a very late attack from the breakaway, and he probably knows he's sub 60 kilos. He's not going to hold these guys off for 7Ks false slide uphill. A last 800 meters, maybe he can swing it. So I think that was his plan. But Bernard was mega strong. Like Julien Bernard, he is in very, very good shape. And I wonder if we'll see him in the Tour de France I think he'll be doing some big work in the Tour, for Milan and maybe in breakaways. But Romeo looked the most likely. He goes on the short last hill, Lipovic closes him. I thought that's a bit mean. And then Tejada's countering. Romeo goes again, big gear. Like winds it up from the back, and he's gone. And then, Romeo wins because he's a TT beast, and this is perfect terrain for him. And in Valencia, did he win a stage in Valenciano doing this?
he won the stage at, well, obviously Tour Down Under, but yes, he did. Valenciana 2025.
Yes, so he did a very similar thing, attacking 17k solo on sort of rolling terrain in Valencia against actually good competition with Trago and co.
Why do I keep switching Romo and Romeo around? Just because they have one letter difference in my head? I keep thinking Romeo was at the Tour Down Under. It was Romo, obviously. But they are so similar in the way they ride these stages, you know? They win because of those solo attacks. Romo did the exact, well, it was also just
Romeo's
very strong.
A bit smarter, I think.
To be honest, U23 ITT world champion. He can cook on this terrain, so
and
once
tomorrow.
you give him some space. Yes, and tomorrow. You're right. He's in the Maillot Jaune as a consequence of this result, but there's a man that's also, well, there's a few people that are still close. You've got Louis Barret on 17 seconds, Harold Tejada on 18 seconds in GC, which is not the trio I would have expected at the top of the Dauphiné after 3 stages, I won't lie. Lipovitz in 4th on 24 seconds, and just for context, that is about 56-ish, 54-ish seconds towards the actual GC riders in this race. Pogacar's closer though, because he took a couple of bonus seconds already in this race. But as I continue, Mathieu van der Poel is 5th on 29 seconds, Dunbar, Roland, Lekkenesund are 6, 7, 8 on 37 seconds. Pogacar is then 9th, on 106, and Fred Wright is 10th on 112. That is, I don't know, I'm looking at this top 10 and I think, okay, most of these riders will disappear in the coming days, which is the logical conclusion. But I'm also thinking Lipovitz with a head start of, I said 50-ish seconds. How much do we rate that for the time trial and the climbs for a potential podium? I don't see it for the podium right now on paper, but it's not impossible.
They should put a good 20. I mean, Remco should be putting 30 into him tomorrow. How long is a TT? 17. We'll do it a preview in a second. But yeah, I think with bonies, even just a negative race with sprints at the end of climbs, he should still be off the podium.
Yeah.
But he outclimbed Matteo Jorgensen in the long climbs in Paris-Nice on Oran, I think. So I know it's cold conditions, but still, he's not someone you just like automatically drop because there's a pace from someone like Sivakov. Like, he's a serious GC rider, and he's if there is an issue for one of the big three, he's probably the favorite for that last podium spot. I do want to say, a word on Ivan Romeo and Movistar in general, because we don't speak about them too much, but they just received, as we said, significant investment from a minority shareholder who bought 43%. Let me bring it up, the article. Quantum Pacific has entered. Quantum Pacific Management Limited acquired 43% of Abarca Sports, which is the paying agent of Movistar. Quantum Pacific sounds like reminds me of Quantum of Solace, but it is
just because Quantum's in it.
It is owned by Idan Ofer, who is an Israeli billionaire businessman, and I think he has a 33% stake in Atletico Madrid and an 85% stake in Famalicão, which is a Portuguese first division football team, and he has a net worth of 17.7 billion. So it's very similar to Ratcliffe and Ineos. It's similar to it's not. It's similar to Israel Premier Tech with Adams as the billionaire backer. It's similar to
Glassenberg, or
it's similar to Q365 indeed, Benji. Yeah, you have a billionaire who has. It's not them directly, like Tinkoff style with the pink hair on the bus, like really calling it Tinkoff, but it's their company. It's their decision.
To be fair, I think Tinkoff's company was also Tinkoff.
Yeah, true. It's a little bit different to Bahrain and UAE, which is the sovereign wealth funds, the holding companies then investing in sports. But Movistar, if you want to compete with the Decathlons, the Vismas, the Treks, you either go and get a huge multinational, which is Lidl, Decathlon, or you get a billionaire backer. And as Luke said, it is a minority shareholding, but that can grow. And so, which is different, of course, when Ratcliffe and Ineos bought the majority of Sky for £1, I believe, back in 2019 or 18. So they know they have money now. That doesn't just mean better riders. It means better equipment, better performance, better everything. And they know what they have. Romeo got extended until 2028 last year. He's got a longer contract than the Paul Seychasses, the Jürgen Nordhagens of the world. He's got 2028. Movistar have Enric Mas just extended until 2030 or something. Javier Romo 2028. So they got money, they got young guys, and I think
they're going
to improve.
The thing I want to see with a rider like Ivan Romeo is right now, yes, he's got the time trial ability and the climbing ability that you'd argue that maybe in the future he can be a GC rider for this team. But I want to see him take those steps gradually and not go from what he is now straight to trying a 1 week GC in a week. You know, I want him to have that year where he goes for stage wins at Grand Tours, because this man can do that from the breakaway multiple times. And I reckon it would be fun to see that. In the same way that, remember when Cattaneo was at Androni Giocattoli and won 2 stages at the Giro that year? Am I inventing that? I'm checking his results.
I don't recall.
I don't recall it either. No, it was Masnada, right? A Giro stage in 2019. 1 or 2, it's all the same.
You know, this is Romeo's 3rd year professional.
Crazy, right?
So yeah, he's now improving a lot. They brought him in early and just basically developed him whilst he was a U23 on the World Tour team. And now he does his first Grand Tour as the Tour de France this year. And I would say he's looking ready for it. He was very, very strong today. As Benji said, GC standings, he's in a good position to keep that yellow jersey after tomorrow. He's 24 seconds ahead of Lipovitz. He's 29 ahead of Van der Poel. I don't think Van der Poel's taken that back on him. And he's got 117 on Remco. Tomorrow's TT from Charmes-sur-Rhône to Saint-Péray, 17.4 Ks. It's quite hard, but not technical. 6 Ks flat, straight line, 1,800 meters, 8.5%. Then descent, time check at 10.5 Ks, then false flat downhill to the line. There's like 3 turns in this whole TT at speed. It's a power TT with a punch. I'm really looking forward to it. I wish it was a little bit longer to balance the mountains coming up. I wish it was maybe 25, 27, but still, it's going to be good. And I don't think Remco should take 112 on Romeo.
I don't think so either. But Romeo is a competent time trialist. We said it multiple times already. U23 ITT world champion. I think top 10 at the Burgos ITT last year, if I recall correctly. So all that combined would suggest that he can probably top 15, top 10 this time trial tomorrow. I see that possible. Remco will take time though. I have Remco as the favorite for tomorrow. I don't think Pogacar and Vingegaard will lose minutes either, obviously. Hot take.
They lose minutes, they got problems, yeah.
Yeah, but I actually think that Pogacar probably will be relatively close. I expect the order to be Remco, Pogacar, Vingegaard at the end of this time trial, in terms of stage result.
Looking at the flat UAE TT, and Tarling took 28 seconds on Romeo, and he was flying a 12K TT. Let's say Remco's Tarling. Yeah, I think Romeo, we want him to keep at 50 seconds, 55 seconds. The hill is the difference, though. It's not a flat TT, which the hill is not good for Romeo. It could be close, but I think he's going to keep yellow. And I think this is a big... Remco's going to win the stage. He'll be the stage favorite.
Yep. Won't be easy. You look like you're about to drop a hot take.
Yeah, I was thinking about it.
You can't just say we'll see.
I was thinking about it.
We'll see? Drop it.
I feel like Vingegaard, I feel like he might win this TT.
Sure. Say it.
That's what I said. I feel like he might win this TT.
Put your body behind it. Shout it.
But I don't feel it like really. But like Remco should win the TT. But yeah, it's not technical. It's not technical. Yeah. Remco should cook, to be honest. He really should. It's like straight lines, high speed. Remco should cook. Does hot weather make them go faster? Luke will know.
Does hot weather make them go faster?
Because different air pressure.
Well, it depends on the rider, I think, is the correct answer.
Yeah, because it might make them pedal slower.
Exactly.
Which doesn't help. Who are we looking out for then to show something? I mean, it is the big three. I really haven't turned my mind to many riders below the big three. But then from Magnus Sheffield, if you're Ineos, you want to see a good TT.
Yeah.
Same goes for Visma with Jorgensen. Lipovitz will want to do a good one. Lenny Martinez, he actually can do a good TT. Don't count out Lenny.
On the pool, will he try to get yellow?
No. I think they'll do the calculations to realize he can't get yellow, and he'll realize he can't beat Romeo, and that's it.
Yeah. Maybe. Then again, I vividly remember that much of Van der Poel time trial back in the day at the Tour de France.
For stage 5, he can go in the break again. I think he will try because he could take yellow after stage 5 again because it's a medium mountain break stage.
Yeah.
Okay. So your pick was Remco. My pick was Remco.
No, your pick wasn't Remco.
Luke says normally you go faster due to less air density, but it's more intense for the body, so normally not. Okay. I go faster in the heat. I go zoom zoom.
So Luke said normally yes, normally no.
He did what I just did. He sat on the fence.
Okay, so you picked Jonas, I picked Remco. Let's continue.
Any other news?
Not particularly.
Yellow cards? They got yellow cards yesterday, Hagenez and Pollitt. Or did we already know that? No, we didn't know that when we recorded.
We didn't mention that yet. And also, I think Penway got yellow as well.
Poor Penway.
Last kilometer.
Poor Penway was getting assaulted in the last kilometer. And listen, he's giving as good as he's getting, but he was getting assaulted from all angles, and he got relegated.
I think he elbowed enough to get one. But
Van der Poel tried to kill him.
I think Van der Poel should have also gotten one. That's what we said yesterday.
Yeah, true.
Those two riders should have gotten a yellow card there. I think Janier shouldn't have gotten one.
Nah, Janier he shouldn't have got one. And it was carnage behind Milan. But yeah, Penway got Hagenez and Pollitt. I think the yellow is kind of fair enough. Like I think Pollitt was the worst of the two, but I think it was more a statement like, calma, like don't do this nonsense. There's no need for it. And let's have a safe Dauphiné and more importantly, a safe Tour de France, I think was the message coming in from the commissaires perhaps. Or maybe they just were like, yeah. So it's not that big a deal, I don't think. Also, the yellow card elapses by the end of the Dauphiné, right, Benji? Like these guys are basically reset. They're reset at 0 by the start of the Tour. So in that sense, if they get another yellow during the Dauphiné, they get kicked out of the race, but they're both relevant for about 2 more stages. And then, but by the Tour, if they get a second yellow in the Tour, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, so the way it works, if I recall correctly, is I don't know.
I said it correctly. Don't worry.
Yeah, but you say it as if like it expires by the time the Tour de France hits. Yeah, but the yellow card still matters for the year-long one, right?
Oh yeah, if they get a third yellow card. So if they get two in the Tour de France, then probably they get like a 14-day suspension, which also doesn't matter, or because they're going on holiday to Ibiza or something after the Tour de France.
And I think 3 in a month it was. Yeah. And you get a suspension, and I think 6 in a year, and you get a suspension.
You get 6 yellow cards. You should not be in this sport. Imagine what you would have to do to get 6 yellow cards. It's like in 10% of your race days, you're trying to kill someone. Yeah. Like, I like that they're trialing it. I think the yellow cards are good. I think it's been a pretty good system, but yeah, maybe the 6th one needs to be like a bit of a tougher sanction. That's all from us today. It wasn't that of an exciting stage, but good breakaway battle. We'll see you at the time trial tomorrow, which I'm really looking forward to. There's no hiding. There's no sandbagging. You got to go full gas for 20 minutes tomorrow, and we'll see where Remco, Jonas, and Pogačar are all standing. Until then, ciao, ciao.